Welcome back to our channel, your ultimate source for the most explosive daytime drama updates. Today is a fantastic day to dive deep into the scandalous, high-stakes world of Port Charles. Grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let us unpack the jaw-dropping twists heading your way. The drama never sleeps, and neither do we. The flashing red and blue lights of the Port Charles Police Department cruisers are about to illuminate the darkest nightmare the Ashford family has ever faced. Just when you thought the dust had settled, and a beautiful new chapter was beginning, the writers are ripping the rug right out from under us. Curtis Ashford is going down in handcuffs, dragged away from his newborn son, as the devastated Portia Robinson screams in pure agony. The peaceful illusion is officially over, and a merciless war of vengeance has just been. Before the catastrophic storm hits, we have to look at the beautiful, fragile peace that preceded it. Curtis and Portia have been through absolute hell and back. The devastating revelation about Trina Robinson's paternity to the terrifying Route 91 car crash, this couple has fought tooth and nail for every ounce of happiness they possess. The sudden, traumatic home birth of their beautiful baby boy was supposed to be the ultimate reward. It was supposed to be the moment the universe finally gave them a. Curtis, holding his newborn son, was finally getting the chance to be the father he was denied being for. The Ashford home was filled with the soft coos of a newborn, the warm smiles of a reunited family, and the profound, overwhelming joy of a fresh start. It was a picture-perfect scene of domestic bliss. But in Port Charles, happiness is always written in pencil, and tragedy is written. The serene, joyful atmosphere in the Ashford home is violently shattered the moment legal shark Martin Gray knocks on. Martin does not make house calls to deliver good news. He arrives with a briefcase full of doom and a deeply grim expression on his face. The brilliant attorney, who Curtis hired to beat the assault charges, is forced to look the proud new parents in the eye and deliver a devastating reality check. The legal strategy has hit a massive, impenetrable brick wall. The hope of a simple plea deal or a slap on the wrist has completely evaporated into thin air. Martin drops the ultimate bombshell. The situation is infinitely worse than they ever imagined, and the walls are rapidly closing in on Curtis Ashford. The source of this impending doom is none other than Isaiah Gannon. If you thought Isaiah was just going to walk away after having his hand shattered and his surgical career compromised, you severely underestimated his thirst for vengeance. Isaiah is not just angry, he is out for absolute, merciless blood. Martin reveals the horrifying truth. Isaiah is not merely pursuing a crippling civil suit designed to bankrupt the Ashfords and drain every last cent of their hard-earned money. No, the civil suit is just the appetizer. Isaiah is aggressively pushing the district attorney to escalate the criminal charges. He wants Curtis prosecuted to the absolute fullest extent of the law for severe, aggravated assault. He wants to ensure that the man who ruined his hand loses his freedom, his family, and his future. Isaiah is using every ounce of leverage he possesses to guarantee that Curtis pays the ultimate price. This is a worst-case scenario for the former police officer and private investigator. Curtis knows the criminal justice system inside and out. He knows exactly how ruthless prosecutors can be when a prominent surgeon is the victim of a violent, unprovoked attack. The reality of the situation crashes down on the Ashford living room like a ton of bricks. Martin lays out the brutal facts. The evidence against Curtis is damning. The altercation was public. The injuries are documented, and Isaiah is playing the role of the tragic, permanently disabled victim to absolute perfection. The district attorney is feeling the pressure, and they are fully prepared to make an example out of Curtis. The legal nightmare is no longer a distant threat. It is a terrifying, immediate reality standing right in their living room, threatening to devour their entire family whole. The moment the words leave Martin's mouth, Portia Robinson experiences a complete and total psychological break. The panic that washes over her is visceral, paralyzing, and absolutely heartbreaking to witness. She looks at her husband, then down at the fragile, innocent newborn baby resting in her arms, and the sheer terror of the future consumes her. The realization hits her with the force of a freight train. Curtis could be sent to a maximum security prison right as their son is taking his first breaths in the peaceful, loving environment they so desperately tried to cultivate for their baby is instantly poisoned by the looming shadow of penance. Portia begins to hyperventilate as the walls of her perfect new life crumble into dust. How can she raise another child alone? How can she survive the agonizing fear of her husband locked behind bars? For Portia, this is not just about the immediate future. It is a horrifying echo of her darkest past mistakes. She spent 2 decades raising Trina without Curtis, hiding the truth, and living a life built on a foundation of lies. Now, just when she finally has the chance to do it right, to raise a child with the man she loves by her side, that dream is being violently ripped away. The cruel irony of the situation is almost too much for her to bear. The universe is forcing her to face the terrifying prospect of single motherhood all over again, but this time, it is not because of a lie she told. It is because of a single, reckless moment of rage from her husband. The guilt, the fear, and the overwhelming sense of injustice create a toxic cocktail of emotions that threatens to push Portia right over the edge of sanity. As Portia spirals into a state of sheer panic, Curtis is forced to confront an impossible, agonizing dilemma. Martin Gray presents him with two absolutely devastating options, neither of which ends with a happily ever after. Option 1. Curtis can accept a harsh plea deal. This would require him to admit guilt, accept the status of a convicted felon, and serve a guaranteed, albeit shorter, sentence. He would miss the crucial first months, or perhaps years of his son's life. He would miss the first steps, the first words, and the quiet, sleepless nights. But he would eventually come home. Option 2. Curtis can reject the plea deal and take his chances at a full-blown trial. He can fight the charges, argue provocation, and pray that a jury takes pity on a desperate father. But if he loses, the judge will throw the book at him. A trial conviction could result in a massive, decade-long sentence. He wouldn't just miss his son's infancy, he would miss his entire childhood. The weight of this decision rests squarely on Curtis's broad shoulders, and it is crushing him alive. He looks at Portia's tear-stained face and the tiny fingers of his newborn son, and his heart physically aches with the impossible burden. If he takes the plea, he is abandoning his wife when she needs him the most. If he rolls the dice on a trial and loses, he is destroying their family forever. There is no winning move. There is no clever legal loophole. There is only sacrifice, pain, and the terrifying reality of the Port Charles justice system. Curtis is a man who has always relied on his strength, his instincts, and his ability to protect the people he loves. But in this moment, his strength is completely useless. He cannot punch his way out of a criminal indictment. He cannot investigate his way out of a shattered surgical. He is entirely at the mercy of a system that does not care about his newborn son. The sheer, suffocating stress of this impending doom begins to act like a corrosive acid on Curtis and Portia's newly healed marriage. They fought so incredibly hard to rebuild their trust after the Trina paternity revelation. They went to counseling, they communicated, they promised to face every obstacle as a united front. But the threat of prison is a completely different kind of monster. The tension in the Ashford house reaches a boiling point. Late-night whispers turn into desperate, tearful arguments. Portia, consumed by her maternal instinct to protect her newborn, begs Curtis to take the safest route to ensure he comes home as soon as possible. Curtis, driven by his pride and his refusal to let Isaiah win, leans towards fighting the charges in court. The fundamental disagreement creates a massive, jagged fracture in their relationship. The peaceful home they envisioned has become a battleground of fear and resentment. Every time the baby cries, the stress amplifies. Every time the phone rings, they jump, terrified that it is the district attorney calling with an arrest warrant. The lack of sleep, combined with the constant, grinding anxiety, turns Curtis and Portia into raw, exposed nerves. They snap at each other over the smallest things. The beautiful, romantic reconciliation they experienced just weeks ago feels like a distant, faded memory. The reality is that Curtis's reckless lack of self-control has placed their entire family in jeopardy, and deep down, in the darkest corners of her mind, Portia is struggling to forgive him for it. She loves him fiercely, but she is terrified, and terror breeds anger. The marriage that survived the ultimate betrayal is now cracking under the immense pressure of the criminal justice. And then, the absolute worst-case scenario finally arrives. The agonizing waiting game comes to a brutal, humiliating end. The Port Charles Police Department does not send a polite letter in the mail. They send uniforms. The heavy, authoritative knock on the door sends a shockwave of pure terror through the Ashford. Curtis opens the door to find his former colleagues standing on his porch, their faces grim and professional. The arrest warrant has been officially signed. Isaiah Gannon's relentless push for criminal charges has succeeded. The officers read Curtis his Miranda rights as they step into the living room. The scene is an absolute, undeniable nightmare. Curtis Ashford, a proud, strong, and deeply loving family man, is forced to turn around and place his hands behind his back. The cold, metallic click of the handcuffs echoes through the house, sounding louder than a gunshot. Curtis locks eyes with Portia, his expression a heartbreaking mixture of profound sorrow, deep regret, and desperate love. He tries to remain calm, pleading with the officers to keep it quiet so as not to wake the baby, but the damage is already done. The peace of their home has been violated. The illusion of safety has been permanently shattered. Curtis is escorted out of his own house, treated like a dangerous criminal, while his neighbors undoubtedly watch from their windows. He is placed in the back of a police cruiser, the flashing lights casting a harsh, unforgiving glow on the life he's being forced to lead. It is a moment of sheer, unadulterated devastation that will leave viewers completely breathless. Left standing alone in the doorway of her suddenly empty home, Portia Robinson collapses into a puddle of absolute despair. The tears she has been fighting back finally break free, streaming down her face in a torrent of uncontrollable grief. She clutches her chest, the pain of losing her husband so soon after finding their happiness, feeling like a physical wound. But as the police cruiser pulls away, disappearing into the Port Charles night, Portia's overwhelming sorrow begins to rapidly morph into something else entirely. The tears of fear transform into tears of pure, white-hot fury. She does not blame the police. She does not blame the district attorney. And in this moment, she refuses to blame Curtis. All of her rage, all of her hatred, and all of her shattered dreams are laser-focused on one single person, Isaiah Gannon. Portia's eyes harden as a terrifying, dangerous resolve settles over her features. Isaiah Gannon is the reason her husband is in. Isaiah Gannon is the reason her newborn son will wake up without a father. Isaiah Gannon took their fragile, beautiful peace and crushed it under his heel out of pure, bitter spite. As the baby begins to cry from the nursery, sensing the traumatic shift in the atmosphere, Portia makes a silent, deadly vow. She will not let Isaiah destroy her family and walk away unscathed. She is a fiercely protective mother and a desperate wife. And there is absolutely nothing more dangerous in Port Charles than a woman with nothing left to lose. Isaiah wanted a war, and Portia Robinson is about to give him one that will shake the very foundations of. The battle lines have been officially drawn, and the collateral damage is going to be absolutely catastrophic. With Curtis locked behind bars and facing the fight of his life, how far will Portia go to protect her family and exact her revenge on the man who ruined everything? Will Curtis survive the brutal reality of Pentonville? Or will this legal nightmare permanently destroy the Ashford? Sound off in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and brace yourselves, because the drama in Port Charles is just getting started.